everybody, and welcome to episode 23 of the FFL Solidity podcast. Today I'm here with a very special guest, teammate, top producer, and Hall of Fame producer, Mr. Rami Hamady. Rami, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Marisa. How are you doing today?
I'm doing awesome, and I'm really excited to be on with Rami today because what we're going to be talking about is in the insurance industry, essentially the importance of asking good questions. Through my 7.5 years or so now in the industry, I've realized that asking good questions is really important. And when we don't, we typically can either lead the client to a state of confusion or lead the client to a state of, I need to think about it, right? A confused person does not make decisions. So without further ado, we're going to really hit on the financial inventory today. So if you're not familiar with the financial inventory, definitely get familiar. It is one of the most important tools, hands down, that you can have with you in the home, telesales, Zoom, you name it. So without further ado, Rami, let's get into it.
All right, so guys, before I begin, I'm going to preface this as a mortgage and a final expense appointment. So I'm going to go hand in hand because when you're going through the inventory, you don't look at the situation the same exact way because at the end of the day, it's a family that's going to need the help when they pass away. There's going to be a burden that needs to be covered, whether it be a mortgage, final expenses, or any kind of bills, legacy, things of that nature. So when I first begin, of course, I take with the financial inventory and I start right from the top. So I'll say, Marisa, how much is your current mortgage or do you currently rent? And now, guys, if I know I'm in a mortgage appointment, I'm just going to ask about the mortgage. I'm asking both because I want people to know that I'm talking about final expense and mortgage. So Marisa, do you currently mortgage or do you rent?
I have a mortgage.
Okay. And what is your outstanding balance on the mortgage?
About $250,000.
Okay. And how many years are left, Marisa, on the mortgage?
Maybe like 16.
Okay, and guys, the reason I ask of how many years are left because I want to know if it was a refinance or if it was a purchase. Now, the fact that she has 16 years left, odds is she bought this a little while ago, and she had either a 20, 25, or 30-year note. Now, Marisa, I assume this was a 30-year note?
Yeah, it was. I bought it about 14 years ago, back in 2009.
Okay. And guys, what I want to mention at this point as well is that now you want to ask some questions. You want to ask questions such as, what was your interest rate? Is it fixed? Marisa, what was your interest rate? Is it a fixed rate?
Yeah, in 2009, it was a fixed rate, actually about 2.4%, which is, great compared to now.
That's amazing, yeah, especially compared to nowadays.
Right.
And how much is your house worth today, Marisa? Now, God forbid anything was to happen to you or your husband yesterday, what would it look like today? How much could you sell the house for?
Last time it was valued at about $750,000.
So guys, the reason I'm asking how much the house is worth, not only because it says it on the form, but that's going to lead me to see how much equity is in the home, right? In addition to that, I'm going to be able to see, did they put a lot of work into this home? How much does the house truly mean to them? Because if a family goes in and puts down, let's say, $100,000 to $300,000 renovations work, that's a lot of income that they're primarily putting into this asset, or it's a liability depending where it is in the stage of the mortgage. Whereas they tell me that, hey, they think it's what it's worth. She told me it's worth 300. Then I know at that point in time, she doesn't think so highly of the house that she's currently in and that she has not maybe invested that much. And I want to say that it's based on the equity. So then I'd say congratulations, Marisa. You have upwards of $500,000 of equity in your home today. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, definitely.
So I congratulate her on that, guys, because one, it's important to do that because that's a lot of money. $500,000, that includes her down payment. That's, the renovations I had mentioned that she put into the home. And that's how much money her family can actually sell the house for. It's not about what is owed to the house. It's matters what can I sell it for? What reward can I give down to my family? What am I going to leave behind to have an everlasting legacy? And the equity, guys, in a mortgage protection appointment should be one of your primary focuses is to make sure you explain to the client that you want to protect this equity bare minimum. And that's what we're going to do here today. Now, Marisa, how much is your monthly payment, including tax and escrow?
It's about $2,600.
Okay. And do you pay any extra to knock down that loan any early?
I actually do. I pay about $400 extra a month. I'm just trying to get it down more like 7-8 years versus that 16.
Okay, that makes sense. So at this point, guys, I would pause and I would tell Marisa, like, okay, I understand you're paying down extra to the loan, and we're going to talk about that later on in this conversation. Because for me, guys, when she's saying she's paying $400 extra, that means that can be allocated to an insurance policy. Instead of her paying down the loan faster to kind of knock down some years, she can allocate that income to a policy that can either A, cover part of the mortgage or the full mortgage, and provide extra benefits such as living benefits, critical, chronic, terminal illness riders, and things of that nature. But they don't know that because they don't know what they don't know. So at that point in time, I'd stop And then I would ask Marisa, now Marisa, God forbid, if you passed away yesterday, what does that look like for you and your family today?
It wouldn't look good. I mean, I'm the primary breadwinner in the home. So without my income, it would be tough for, the kids.
Okay, so it's fair to say that right now you're the primary income earner?
Yeah.
Okay, so guys, what I would do at this point in time is I would write that down and I'd say I understand and I'd continue. I'd move on. I want to ask her, say, what does it look like? She told me it's not going to look good. I make most of the money here. If I pass away, things are going to happen. Now, what you can do as well is you want to ask, oh, come here, say, tell me a little bit more. What does that truly look like? So how would your family replace your income? How are they going to maintain the bills? I know you're telling me that it's not going to look good, and I understand that, but I need a little bit more clarification exactly on what does that really look like for you. So one, where's your family go?
Well, I mean, being divorced with 3 children, I mean, the kids would have to move with my sister. I mean, okay. I wouldn't want them, with their dad. So the kids would have to go with my sister, and, she lives in Texas, so I'm not sure how they would feel about that. I really just want to make sure that at the end of the day that something happens to mom, that my kids are okay. I want a peace of mind when I go to sleep at night.
Okay, so I understand. So like most families, you just want to make sure that in the event that you pass away in an untimely fashion, that there is no burden left behind and you're not indebting your children $250,000 regarding to the mortgage.
Right.
In addition, I assume like most families, you don't want to hinder your sibling. You don't want to, incur more debt and add more financial stress. Does that make sense?
Yeah, especially when she's going through that and how she would handle taking over 3 kids,
I agree. I wouldn't either. And now I see why I'm here today, guys. I would say now I see why I'm here today. I wouldn't say the guys part. And then I continue. Now, guys, that's the top of the mortgage section. And then I would just continue and I'd say, what do you have that acts as mortgage protection? Now, if it's not a mortgage and you're just asking the rent, ask the rent and say, how do you cover the rent? How do you replace the income? Who's going to be able to bury you in peace and make sure that all your final expenses are taken care of? You don't have to sit there and drill on the rent too much. Just ask, what does that look like? Who's going to take over your assets here, your things in the house? What does it look like? So that's what I would do in a final expense appointment. But this is for the mortgage side. I would ask those questions.
And I just want to chime in on that too. And guys, the main reason that Rami's asking a lot of those questions is these are all financial based questions. If you actually think about it, the who, what, when, where, why, how, essentially it's all comes back to finances, right? One thing I always like to say is, Rami, of course, when you die, your income dies with you. And I think that's really powerful because it's not a conversation that people are having every day. So when we're asking these questions, they're extremely powerful. So it's extremely important to lean in and let your client talk. The worst thing you can do after you ask a question is your client starts answering, then you're like talking over them. If they want to talk for 10 minutes about why they need the insurance, let them, because they know they need it, and now they're helping you understand why they need it. So I just want to throw that in there.
Of course, I agree. That was a great tip. And what I would do is at this point, I say, Marisa, what you have that acts as life insurance or mortgage protection?
So I have life insurance at my job.
Okay, you have it with your employer?
Yeah, I'm covered for 5 years of my salary, 5 times my salary.
Okay, and I assume, like most of my families I sit with, their work insurance is primarily good while you're working, right? That's why, they have that there. But most importantly, you want to own something independently that in the event you have to reduce your hours, you become sick, you get laid off. Most importantly, you hit that age of retirement. There's something there that's going to carry on with you. So with that being said, Marisa, what do you own today independently that's going to pay out to your family, to your sister, in the event of your children, in the event that you did die, outside your work insurance?
Yeah, no, I do have another insurance policy for $100,000.
And do you have that policy accessible?
I do. It's with ABC Life Insurance Company.
Can you please go get that policy for me?
Yeah.
And guys, the reason I'm asking that is because everyone's going to tell you they know what kind of insurance they have. They know the face amount, right? Marisa,
yeah, but it's whole life. I pay $40 a month for it, and I just got it. And it's for $100,000.
Exactly, and they're 7 years old. But the point is, you want to show the client what it is because a lot of times, either A, they got a long time ago and they just forget. They don't know what it is. It was a term policy or it was accidental. So the reason I was that firm in that, I'd say go get the policy, ask that you got it, and then you said it's $100,000 with
ABC Life.
ABC Life, and that's a term policy. I assume that expires in.
As you can see, it expires here in about 12 years.
Perfect. Okay. So now the fact that I know, guys, it's expiring in 12 years, I'm going to hone in on that. So Marisa, I do see you have 16 years left on the mortgage, and you do have $100,000 that can take away at least a third of the mortgage for the remaining 12 years. Now, after that 12 years, do you have anything in place that's going to help you?
No, just I mean, my 401k, I have that, but
Okay.
no other, insurance.
Okay, and your 401k, I assume that's meant for your retirement, correct?
Yeah.
And to help kind of get you by through later on years in life when you're no longer working?
Right.
Okay, now I see why I'm here today. So there's no more protection in place. Do you have any significant savings, Marisa? Liquid at $50,000 in the bank or more? It's a yes or no answer.
Yes.
Okay. And do you have any CDs, mutual funds, bonds, stocks?
Not that I'll be moving around.
Okay, but do you own any?
I do, yeah, just a few. Nothing crazy.
You like to play around the stock market?
Yeah, a little bit.
Who doesn't? Okay, and then who is going to be the beneficiary on this policy today?
It would be my 3 children.
Okay.
John, Joe, and Jack.
Okay. And Marisa, what is your occupation at this point in time?
I'm a nurse.
And what is your monthly income after taxes?
After taxes, I bring home about $14,000
a month.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I see how you are the primary income earner. Being a single parent, I definitely understand why it's important to protect your income. Now, Marisa, outside of death, what do you own today that, God forbid, knock on wood, you get diagnosed with cancer, heart attack, or you have a stroke? What's going to come in and replace your ability to produce your income?
Well, I mean, at work, I have my, short-term disability, and they provide long-term disability, so.
Yeah, so how those work? Do you know how those work? How short-term and long-term works at work?
I know that they give you like a portion of it.
So correct. So very, very basic terms, they're going to give you a percentage of your income for either 6 to 9 months for a short-term disability. If you cannot return to work after 6 to 9 months and they activate your long-term disability, assuming you qualify under whatever qualifications, because not all sicknesses and ailments fall under these short-term and long-term disability plans. Some do not, and the employer is forced to lay you off by law. So what happens is 9 to 36 months will come in depending on your employer. Here in Mass, I have not seen 36. I see a lot of 24 months, 2 years of your income. If you cannot return to work outside that 2 years or your hours get reduced, do you know what happens, Marisa, at that point in time?
I mean, I would, probably lose all my benefits, right?
They lay you off. You lose more than your benefits. You lose your income. You
Right.
lose it. The income that's providing to stability to your home today. So that being said, I understand that you have long-term and short-term disability, which is great, and that's why it only costs you a few cents or a few dollars every week to participate in. But you want to make sure that you have something that's actually going to be there and to access a large lump sum in the event you are diagnosed with a cancer, heart attack, or stroke, because you have a large mortgage, and if you can't pay your bills on time, you can't pay the mortgage. If you can't pay the mortgage, they're going to foreclose. And I'm sure like most families, 68% of foreclosures in America are due to loss of income or due to sickness of the primary income earner.
Oh, wow, yeah. That's a concern for sure.
And then Marisa, are you a smoker at this point in time?
No.
Okay. And are you taking any medications?
No, I don't take any medications.
Excellent. Have you here. That makes my job much easier. And now, guys, at this point, I personally ask you a lot of questions.
Okay, so real quick, I just want to take a step. Let's actually go back to medications. Go ahead.
Okay, so are you on any medications?
Yeah, I take a couple of meds.
Which are?
I take a Wellbutrin for depression.
Okay.
And I take atorvastatin for cholesterol, 10 milligrams. These are both of the bottles.
Thank you, Marisa. Because I would have asked you to grab the bottles, but because we did a little what's it called? I forget. It's a football when they change the play around. I forget.
Switcheroo.
An audible, yes. So you have Wellbutrin and atorvastatin. Do you have any hospitalizations due to your depression?
No.
Okay. And how often do you go to the doctor?
Typically once a year for my annual, or
Annually?
if I'm sick or anything.
Have you had any non-diagnostic lab testing in the last year?
No.
Have you had any diagnostic lab testing in the last year?
Yeah, I mean, they took my blood levels. Everything looked pretty good.
Okay, and your blood work has been clear?
Yes.
Clean bill of health?
Yes.
Okay, very happy to hear that. And have you ever been diagnosed with COVID-19?
I was, about a year ago.
Okay, and have you ever been diagnosed within the last 6 months?
No.
Does any doctor you have evidence of kidney, lung, or heart impairment due to COVID-19?
No.
Okay. And do you have any history in your family of heart attack, stroke, or cancers?
Yeah, my mom passed away of cancer.
Okay. And most importantly, have you had any issues with heart attack, stroke, or cancers?
No.
Okay, happy to hear that. Knock on wood. And I know I asked you to go to Dr. Anley, but do you see any other specialists outside of your PCP?
No, I don't.
None. And again, just to make sure you were never hospitalized within the last 6 months to a year for more than 48 hours.
No.
Okay. No ER visits in the last year.
Nope.
All right.
They did change my medication though about a year or so ago.
That's okay. What medication was that?
It was from the Wellbutrin, the citalopram.
Okay.
It was before.
Okay. That's okay. All right. I'm just going to list these off. I know I already might have asked you a couple of them, but I'm just going to read them off. Any heart attack, stroke, cancer, stent, diabetes, neuropathy, high blood pressure, rheumatoid arthritis, kidney or liver disease, major anxiety, major depression that will cause you to become debilitated or go to the hospital for, or any pain condition that you have to take a daily pain pill for every single day?
No.
Okay. So Marisa, at this point in time, you're a very easy case to understand. Now, I don't know, do you want to go back here at any point before I continue?
No, I think some important things that to point out, guys, are, Rami was asking a lot about what was already in place. I think that that's important. Sometimes we get nervous to ask like, oh, what's already in place? And then you see that they have, for example, $100,000 insurance policy. We want to remember they took that insurance policy out prior to knowing that they had this appointment, in this case about mortgage protection, for example, right? So people who buy life insurance will typically buy more life insurance. They see the value, they see the need, and oftentimes it's allocated to different things. So just like how Rami was down there, he explained really well my work insurance, how that worked and what it looked like. And then also, I grabbed my policy, my fake policy here and showed him it, and he reviewed it. And I think one other question I may have added in there was, so guys, I think it's really important to ask, when you got that policy, Marie said, what was it geared to do? And sometimes they'll just say, I just wanted to have life insurance. And it's cool. We want to allocate that policy somewhere so that it doesn't become a problem down the road. And it typically doesn't.
Correct. I agree. And that was a question I definitely should have asked at that point in time as well.
And another thing Rami did a great job of hitting on is medications. It's it doesn't matter only what they're taking today. It matters what were they prescribed in the past, right? Have you been, how we hit on all of those different things, cancer, stroke, heart attack, diabetes, neuropathy, high blood pressure. When you're hitting on all those things, you're just double checking your financial inventory in terms of the health side. And that's really important to do. Because oftentimes, Rami, will you have folks say oh, I forgot to mention, and they'll bring up, yes, something that happened, right?
After they were declined with the America Soft Check.
Right. Oh, I forgot to mention that. And that's the thing, though. It's we don't want to get them declined to America Soft Check, right? So if we have all that information on the front end, now, Rami, you have enough information to be able to give me a really educated decision on what way and what we should be looking at.
Correct.
Awesome.
And then the last question, what I like to always end with after I go through the major surgeries, the medication, the whole nine, then I'll say, all right, and do you have a will in place? I just like to remind them that, okay, when you die, do you have a will or do you have a trust?
I don't have one yet. I'm doing it, though. I'm doing it.
Okay, so you just want to make sure, Marisa, after we put this mortgage protection policy in place today, that you're going to go ahead and make a will, okay?
Okay.
All right. So, Marisa, you're a very straight case. So now, in my personal opinion, I know you need the insurance because you're the primary income earner. You have a mortgage. You don't want to indebt your family. And you don't want to leave your kids nothing behind. You want to make sure that they have something there. In addition, I see that you need to replace your ability to produce income because you're 29. So I want to make sure at least bare minimum, I get you closest to the age of retirement. So at this point, guys, I'll go more into the pitch and I would turn this around. And in her situation, I would picture her CBO 100 for 30 years. She's 29 years old. She's healthy. She has no major illnesses, nothing like that. So there's no reason for her to waste her money. I'm not going to go down a route for an IULE trying to confuse her because there's so many more things to that than just more of, protecting the mortgage. So, and while I'm protecting the mortgage, I'm setting the fundamental blocks, right? At first, take care of final expenses. Second, taking care of, her mortgage. That's why I'm here today. If I want to come back and review the policy, I want to come back in 6 months and say, hey, I can help you with your retirement. I can give you a whole life product to kind of assist in your funeral. We can do that no problem. Because I know that today, if I help her with the CBO and she does pass away, she has her final expenses covered. She has her mortgage covered. She may have a little bit more money as well on top of that. So that's my primary goal right now, is to make sure I can cover the mortgage and do it on my job supposed to do today. So I would show her the full payoff because she's 29. She makes $14K a month. Then I would show her 2/3 of the loan, which would be $200,000. Then I would show her half the loan, which is $125,000. Then I'll just do a quick explanation of what the CBO is. So I say, Marisa, in the event you get diagnosed with any heart attack, any stroke, or stage 2 cancer or higher, as I call invasive cancer, you will have access to part or all of your death benefit while you're living. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
They do that to replace your ability to produce that income. Because as I mentioned, if you lose that ability to produce income, you can no longer work. If I can't work, I don't make as much money as I did, I cannot pay my bills on time. And again, if I can't pay my bills on time, you're subject to foreclosure. In addition, it's any critical illness, any chronic illness, any terminal illness. This can go all around 18,000 different diagnoses, but what I'll tell you is it's more like Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, major dementia, kidney disease, liver failure, things of that nature. Lou Gehrig's disease. If any of those happen to you, you have access to part or all of the money while you're living. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
Okay, so we call these living benefits. All right, living benefits, guys, right at the top and very big writing. If you ever become disabled and you cannot perform 2 out of 6 activities of daily living, eating, walking, talking, going to the bathroom, getting dressed, taking a shower, getting in and out of bed or in and out of chair, transferring, or for more than 90 days, and a doctor has certified that for at least 90 days, you need help for 2 out of 6, you will get access to part of this money while you're living. God forbid you get diagnosed with Parkinson's or have to enter a long-term care facility because you need supervision due to severe cognitive impairment. They will give you access to this money while you're living. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
Okay. And of course, if you pass away, your sister and your children will be able to receive the benefit, and there's going to be no financial burden. Right?
Okay.
The best part about this program is if nothing happens to you, you don't get sick, you don't die, you keep on living life, you're going to get 100% refund. We call this program cashback option 100%. So in very layman terms, at the end of the policy's term, at the end of these next 20 or 30 years, if nothing happens to you, you're going to get all the money paid back to you.
Okay, awesome.
So
wow.
think of this like a forced saving account with a huge safety net.
Absolutely. Okay, that makes sense.
Okay. All right. And then I'll go ahead and I'll show you your options, and I want you to tell me which one you feel comfortable qualifying for today.
One question I do have on that cash back is, how does the insurance company make any money if they're just going to give me all my money back?
That's a very good question. A lot of families do ask that. And what I want you to do is I would show my credibility sheet, and I'd say, Marisa, how many companies do you recognize on this sheet today?
Most of them, actually.
Yeah, so I like to call these the backbone of America's economy. They fund basically the banks. They're the largest investors in the world. They have their hands in a lot of capital investment funds. They control a lot of the products and brands that we all purchase today. So these same people who own these companies own those companies as well. And basically, long story short, they're the large investors. They will not take your money. They're not going to directly invest it, but they're going to make a lot more money with the money that you're giving them than what they're giving you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. So that's why it's the 30 years and everything. Okay, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Right, and the 30 years is because we have exactly, I want to make sure you're hitting that age of retirement. You're 29 years old. That puts you at the age of 59. I'd be doing you a disservice by putting anything less because, Marisa, God forbid anything does happen to you in your 30s or 40s, you're not retired yet. Your 401k has not maxed out yet. You haven't saved that much money. You haven't allowed yourself that much time to save money in the bank or in a saving account. So therefore, I want to extend it as long as possible for you to make sure if any of these do happen, you have a larger safety net to kind of lay your head on, if that can make sense.
It does. Yeah, I like the 30 years. Okay.
All right. And then I would show the quote. And then if she's told me like, hey, it's too expensive for me, it doesn't make sense, I would basically say, all right, Marisa, do you save $100 in your bank, bare minimum, every month?
Yeah.
All right. So 100 times 12 is $1,200. And I draw 2 lines vertically, guys. So I'll say this is day 1 with the bank. This is day 1 with the insurance policy for your mortgage. Now, if you save $1,200 for 10 years, it's $12,000. 1,200 times 10, right?
Right.
If you develop heart attack, stroke, or stage 2 cancer or higher, or you pass away, how much money do you have saved left behind for your family?
$12,000.
$12,000. On this side, it doesn't matter when you get sick. It doesn't matter when you die. It can be day 1, year 1, month 6, month 38, year 40. You're always going to have between $125,000 to $250,000. What is more money for you or your family? Potentially having $12,000 in 10 years or having $125,000 tomorrow if you passed away.
Yeah, I mean, $125,000 tomorrow.
Right, they don't teach us this in school. That's what I say, guys, all the time. I say they don't teach us this in school, tax and insurance. And I'll say at the end of 30 years, 1,200 times 30 is 36,000, and it equates to the same exact thing like they saved in the bank. The only difference is in that 3rd-year timeline, it doesn't matter how much money they have saved. The bank's not going to give them $125,000 to $250,000. They're just not. They're going to disqualify you from loans because you can't pay them back. If you're sick and you can't work, why would I give you a loan if you can't pay it back?
Right.
You're gonna start utilizing credit. Your credit score is gonna go down. So Pandora's box we don't want to talk about, guys. But long story short, it's much safer to allocate investments and income into a cashback plan.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, you crushed on the financial inventory. And guys, I think the main things that Rami hits on, if you are in a mortgage appointment, is make sure you have the details of the mortgage. If you're not and you're in a final expense, in any other type of appointment, right? So collect the health information. Folks understand how important it is. But other than that, Rami, anything you want to wrap up with today?
No, guys, just make sure when you're in the family's home, like I said, final expense or mortgage, just ask the right question, care for the family. Just truly ask them, what's it look like when you die? Like, who's going to pay the bills? You don't have to ask in any like extravagant term to say, when you pass away, who's going to be responsible for paying for your final expenses? How do they have that money? Do they make that enough? Is it fair for them to pay that much money even if they do have it? Once you talk to the family, show them that you care, you're always going to help that family. So just go out there with a protecting, a serving heart. Just make sure you're just helping those families, guys.
Absolutely. So show up for those families, ask those hard questions, because guess what? You're probably going to be the only person that ever goes in there and actually has that conversation with that family. But Rami, thank you so much for being on with us today. Like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you next week. Thanks.
Thank you.